Watch what's approaching, the supreme moment. Reality striking closer than it seems, don't it? Go ahead, it's for the taking if you want it. If not, the dream dies and you'll be forever haunted. Then confront it.
What's good, and welcome back to another session on some Dokkan Battle content. We're actually going to be switching things up a little bit for this one. This is one of those ideas that I've actually wanted to run for a little while, just never had the opportunity or time to do so. But today we're actually going to be testing out some of the World Tournament ticket banner summonable units and just running through a team and see how they perform. Overall, again, this is based on the, obviously the title of the video. We're only including Z Awakened units up to an SSR rarity, so some of these units are better than others, and we'll start calling out each of the individual units as to which ones are more practical and usable on teams versus some of the ones that are simply just obsolete. So we'll start off with probably the best unit out of the bunch, which is the Agility Invisible Man unit. This guy is actually pretty good. Along with originally starting out as an SR unit, this guy does have the super attack ability to cause supreme damage to enemy and also lowers attack and defense. So for an SR unit to have the ability for a supreme damage multiplier, that's actually pretty good. And on top of that, the unit does have the ability to lower attack and defense. So just from a super attack perspective, this guy's really good. But along with this, the passive skill is equally as good, if not better. So for this guy, the passive skill is a great chance of evading enemies' attack, including supers, and attack increase to 30% with each enemy attack evaded up to a max of 120%. Also disables enemy guard. This is some of the skill sets you would typically see more or less on the summonable SSR unit. So the fact that, again, this guy is an SR rarity, waking into an SSR state, this is incredibly good in terms of like the skill set. So again, great chance equates to a 70% chance to evade attacks. That also includes super attacks as well. And again, with every attack evaded, you get a 30% increase toward attack up to 120%. Along with that, causes supreme damage to enemy with the super attack. So very, very good. And at least this guy does have Infighter, as a link skill. That's attack increase to 10%, enemies defense minus 10%. And then we got the Incredible Adventure for Key +2, and then Guidance of the Dragon Balls is attack increase to 20%. So obviously a very good unit out of the group of summonable units from the World Tournament ticket banner. The other unit that's pretty good in terms of like an SR unit is certainly the Ox King. So this guy does have the ability to raise defense with the super attack. Along with that, similar to the Invisible Man, does cause supreme damage to enemy as well. The good thing about this guy is the passive support. So along with getting a defense increase of 150%, which is a pretty substantial amount, Dragon Ball Saga category allies get Key +2 and attack and defense increase to 30%. So that definitely does help out the rest of the teams as well. Links are pretty decent. I mean, Infighter, tough as nails, and then Guidance of the Dragon Balls, Incredible Adventure. Turtle School really isn't that much of a relevant skill set or link skill, but overall not bad. Again, the defensive abilities and the support function is really what makes this unit usable. Now for the next one, I was hoping the active skill or passive skill would activate for this guy, the infamous, notorious Devilman. Of course, you guys know all about this guy, where the passive skill is an ultra rare chance to grant a deadly power to super attack. So if we get that into basically layman's terms, that is a 1% chance to gain attack increase of 1,000,000%. So that is why when you saw some of the testing that I've done in the past, you see ridiculous amounts of numbers because you do get a 1,000,000% attack increase, and that is a very large amount. Along with that, of course, nothing really special. Super attack just causes huge damage to enemies, so it's one of those Gambit type units. You rarely do see it. It's all again, it's a 1% chance, so it's like 1 in 100 chances of that actually taking place. The other guy I included on here is the Intelligence General Blue unit. This guy was actually pretty decent back in the day in terms of the early days of Dokkan Battle, to where the super attack and passive skill was kind of useful. Super attack low damage, but does have the great chance to stun the enemy. So again, great chance does equate to a 70% chance. And then with the passive skill, it's a rare chance of stunning all the enemies. That is a 8% chance equivalent. Obviously not great considering it's only one turn as well, but again, back in the day this was actually pretty useful, and I did run him from time to time. The thing about this guy, I mean, he does have brutal beatdown. That is an attack increase of 10% that a lot of the extreme type enemies or extreme type units do have as a link skill. Along with that, I mean, incredible adventure and guidance of the Dragon Balls really is the only really good passive skill or link skill with this guy. Surprisingly, this guy does fall into a decent amount of categories. I'm not quite sure if I want to run him on a Conquest of Terror setup, but he certainly does fall into that. So for the very last one, I was actually debating on which unit to include, but I only included the Strength Yamcha unit because I do have his SA at max. By the way, the majority of the units do have max SA outside of maybe General Blue, who has level 7 toward the SA, but outside of that, everybody else does have max A level of 10. This Yamcha unit, again, I included it mainly because of the level 10 SA, but also decent amount of boosting from the super attack and passes. So if we talk about it in detail, the super attack causes extreme damage to enemy, but also lowers attack. The passive skill is pretty decent for what it is. Ki +3 and attack increase of 40% for 7 turns from the start of turn. So decent amount of boosting from that with the passive skill. Link skills are okay. I mean, you do at least have Infighters, Shocking Speed, along with the 2 common ones in this DB Saga, which is Incredible Adventure and Guidance of the Dragon Balls. The good thing about this guy, along with the attack increase of 40%, is you do get a Ki +3 at the least, and that obviously does help making sure that he gets a super attack. But of course, we're running through Boss Rush 7, and of course, these guys are obviously struggling quite a bit. It's almost like the Kid Goku unit is pretty much clearing the map for the rest of the units. Meanwhile, they're pretty much applying little in damage. But the interesting thing is the Ox King definitely does defend well. I mean, given the skill stats built in toward defense, it's pretty much a no-brainer. But again, that really comes down to why it's so useful. The Invisible Man's pretty good, but the problem with that is the unit will definitely take some damage because of the lacking stats and whatnot. So it's you can't fault the unit for that. But this guy doesn't get any sort of defensive boost outside of evading attacks. So if the dodge doesn't kick in, obviously he's gonna take a decent amount of hits. But 415,000 attack stats is actually pretty good for this guy to be able to pull off. And we're still waiting on Devilman to pull off the passive skill, which was what was the term of that? It was called the Demon from Hell passive skill. So when it does activate, all hell breaks loose, but very rare chance of that actually happening. Again, it's a 1% chance of attack increase of 1,000,000%, which is a very substantial number, but the odds of that happening on a frequent basis is pretty limited and slim. So when it kicks in is obviously things are going down, but if it doesn't, you're pretty much expecting him as a liability. So again, the Ox King is pretty good defensively. Yamcha's doing okay with 200k attack stats. That's pretty much what you would expect out of the group. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys are SR units that pretty much originated as an SR, awakened into an SSR. So of course they're not great, but at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting, right? It does kind of put it in perspective because, not too long ago with the, 2-year anniversary when the Super Saiyan 4 units came out and Boss Rush was first introduced with Boss Rush 3, it was actually quite difficult even bringing in, 70% or 120% Metalese, but skip through time and go into Boss Rush 7, which is what we're on, and we're only bringing in SR units. So that actually does put it in perspective that along with some of these guys actually being pretty good, just suggests that how much the game has actually changed, where we got the category leads and not even not even really struggling with a boss rush 7, which is 4 additional stages along with boss rush 3. So it just tells you how, sometimes this is almost like a time capsule. We travel back and see how much easier things are compared to what it was. So again, this is the pretty much testing of the SR units on the Dragon Ball Saga category. So hopefully you guys enjoyed a little different approach on a video. And as always, I do appreciate you guys watching, and definitely stay tuned for the next one. All right, until then, I'll catch you guys later.